Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sander Lanch podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about 3 more chapters of Words of Radiance. That's 2 interludes, the Rysn interlude, the Last Legion interlude, and then chapter 13. In these chapters, we see Rysn, who was she was, an apprentice when we met her before. She still is, but she gets to take the lead on a trading expedition. And it doesn't, with mixed results, I think is the way to put that. Then we go back to Eshonai and the Parshendi and learn some more about them. And finally, we see Shallan on her way to the Shattered Plains. So some interesting stuff this time. I'm Data, and with me this week is
Joe and Dak.
Yeah, Jaymee is under the weather again. One of those, I was going to say one of those summer colds. It's not summer down there. So one of those winter colds.
Freezing bitch of winter. I also have a cold, but I'm trying to keep it managed. I'm not nearly as bad off as she is.
Oh,
that's good.
So, just Boys' Day again this week, but it went so well last time. How could it not be amazing? Hang on to something, everybody. The Sander Lanch is about to begin. We finished up the interludes and started part 2 of, I almost said the Way of Kings. We did do part 2 of the Way of Kings, but that was a while ago now. Part 2 of Words of Radiance. What did you guys think of these 3 chapters?
Wasn't really what I was expecting, not in a bad way, but when we made kind of some predicaments about what we thought might happen, I wasn't expecting what we got. So it was fun to read because it was fresh and different. Again, I wasn't expecting 2 perspectives from the same person in one interlude set. So the fact that we got that was pretty cool because it was kind of continuation of what's going on with the Parshendi peeps. And so it was cool to get that perspective for sure. And so it was fun to read those. And then getting back with Shallan, she's still in the same situation she was when we left off. She's feeling some feelings, which is understandable. Other than that, I mean, even though some cool stuff happened in this chapter, I feel like not a lot of story progression happened. So that's kind of all I've got, but it was good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, with the 2 interludes, obviously you don't usually get story progression. And then the one chapter,
right.
It was kind of just like place setting.
Yeah,
her new normal at the moment.
Right. Yeah, honestly, the first interlude section that we read today, the whole island is a creature thing made me think of World of Warcraft in the expansion Mists of Pandaria. They're all in a giant turtle, like all the pandas. That's where they're from.
Oh, okay.
A giant turtle island.
And so it made me think of turtles, but
yeah, sure, lion turtles. But yeah, it was that's a cool idea. That's always a cool idea. It's like these people are on this island, but it's actually a giant animal. Always a kind of a cool thought. Almost like I almost want a short story just from those people.
That would be sick.
Yeah, and just kind of getting to see what their lives are like in that culture. It'd be pretty fun to read, I think.
Apparently their lives are like we run around naked and jump in the water.
Yeah, sure, but I mean they also go to war and stuff. So you've got these warring traveling creature islands, and also I almost felt like the section was hinting at the fact that when they go to war, it's because they're giant chull creatures get mad at each other and start attacking each other, so that the people on top are okay, we got to go to war with those people. our gods are mad at them.
I got that same impression. Although honestly, I was there's the one line where it's oh man, what must mating look like between these two? And I was what if it's actually a mating thing? And they're the god wants us to go to war with this other island,
and they're actually trying to mate. Yeah, that'd be unfortunate.
Zookeeper, those 2 monkeys are killing each other. They're having sex. Oh.
But yes, so giant crab islands. It's as if we hadn't had enough giant crab monsters. Now we have, but I want to say hopefully the giantest crab monster, because if there's bigger ones, that's scary.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with that.
Maybe there's space crab monsters that are enormous. Like,
Space crab monsters.
I was thinking like the space whales from Ahsoka. I'm sure they've shown up in other Star Wars like TV shows, and they didn't just randomly appear there. But
Oh man, Ahsoka spoiler. Haven't watched any of that.
there's giant space whales.
Ahsoka spoiler, bro. I guess you all said space whales in Star Trek, right?
I mean, there were some weird space creatures. I don't know if there were whales that they took into space that one time, but
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. And then in TNG there was the space jellyfish.
oh yeah, in the first episode of TNG, they did have the weird glowy jellyfish things. But there were some other creatures throughout there that lived in space.
Yeah.
Space whales in Thor: Love and Thunder, or are they space dolphins?
Oh,
That's a good question.
I think it was dolphins. Hold on.
The space
Okay.
dauphin. I need to turn this fan
Yeah.
off.
When I search Love and Thunder space, the first thing that comes up is space dolphins, followed by space goats.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're goats.
Classic goats.
Space dolphins. The scientific name is space.
Yeah.
The scientific term is space jerks.
Official digression of the Sanderlanche podcast, space dolphins and space animals in general, as well as, have you guys heard of Pokerogue? If you're a
No.
Pokemon fan. So it's a browser-based game. So you just make a profile on the website and can play. It's pokerogue.net. But it's kind of an interesting thing. It's like you make your profile and then you pick Pokemon to start with your party based on a score. You have a max score of 10 you can take in with you. And then it's just like a what's the word I'm looking for? No, it's almost like a dungeon crawler where it's like you just keep fighting Pokemon and trainers, and each time you beat a wild Pokemon, it does a random item drop that you can select from, and you earn money to buy extra items if you need it. And then the Pokemon you catch, you can, if you die, if any Pokemon that you caught that are level 1, like not level 1, but like first evolution stage, you can pick as starters next time you go through if you want. Like they get added to your list, and then your Pokemon evolve in the dungeon. But if you die and you lose, then they all go back to original phase of them. And then also what was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh, also any Pokemon that you catch while in the dungeon, you can put in your party, just like and sub out somebody that's already in your party if you wanted to. So it's kind of interesting. I've been messing around with it a little bit. It's pretty fun.
I had to bring it up and sign up for an account. I'm gonna actually look at it later, but I signed up for and I love the opening screen. It says Pokerogue, more addictive than intended.
Yeah.
What a tagline.
It is. There's still like, it's obviously somewhat new because there's still like some buggy things, like some moves that your Pokemon get. You click the move and it's like, this move doesn't work yet. Like they haven't coded it into the game.
You're
yet,
like, oh, I'll get this enemy. Thunderbolt. Oh, never mind.
Never mind. It doesn't work.
Okay. Now I have to check that out. Reversed for a moment, back to the topic of space dolphins. I had to look up in this MCU wiki, the space dolphins, and characteristic trait, they have the ability to float through and survive in space. Yeah. These creatures mate for life in groups of 6.
Groups of 6. Okay.
Yeah. So good for them.
They are polygamous yet loyal dolphins. I'm confused about that.
Right.
It's like, you 6. You're the only. It's like, you 3 female space dolphins and you 3 male dolphins. Only ones allowed in this sex group.
Man, freaking dolphins. What can you do?
What can you do?
Yeah.
No, seriously, I'm asking, what can you do?
Run.
Don't mess with the space dolphins,
Hey, that's good advice. Sound advice. That's what we're all about here on the Sanderlanche podcast. Sound advice about sexy dolphins.
Oh, God. Dak, do your thing.
Yeah, chapters were good. It was nice to see Rysn again, still tending the dirt pot. Yeah, I really liked these Crab Island cultures and seeing everything they were going through. I did have the same thought. It's like, what happens if the 2 islands are trying to mate? And yeah, that was one of those. All right, I'm just gonna let this wash over me because it was really interesting. The chapter with Shallan was kind of interesting. Just nice to see how she's keeping Patton hidden, but also still finding a way to talk to him. I really liked the whole. Can you put walls on the cage, please? I did have a moment, and I might be reading too much into this, but I'm just like, is the guy Bluth that she was talking to? For some reason, I'm just like, is this Naz? I don't know. Just thinking about the map where it's like Naz wrote, oh, Shallan made landfall here. I was like, well, how does he know that? How would he find that out?
Right.
So I'm like maybe he's in Crazy Vaklov's group. So and since this guy got a name, it's like maybe it's him.
Selling slaves, that's messed up.
Yeah, I get the feeling Naz has done some very unscrupulous things to survive. And we know from the broadsheets he was basically like was he a criminal on Scadrial?
He seemed to have stolen a map or something because she was after him to get her father's map back and it ripped in. So yeah, I mean he was a shady, but it was map related. So maybe that makes it okay. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It's confusing.
He's like, I'll do anything for those maps. Gotta have my maps.
Bluth has been around since the early portion of the Way of Kings. He was called out and named when Kaladin was riding in Crazy Vaclav's caravan also. So
righto. Yeah. Well, that was those two. I gotta say, Eshonai is rapidly jumping up the ranks of I love these characters. She's great. Her internal conflict is just great. I love this crab lady. I want to see more of her. I hope you get what you want because you seem nice. You seem like a good person.
She just wants to explore.
Yeah, and just seeing what she goes through working with the working with the Council of Five. It's all right, we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna take this responsibility on. And Sister gets all pissy because it's it was my discovery, and it's fuck off. I was a bit just I've only met Eshonai not even 2 chapters ago, and already Sister starts getting up at her. I'm just you better fuck off.
To be fair, Venli, the sister, is a little bit whiny and annoying. So
yeah. It's oh yeah, people are dying, but this is my discovery. Fuck off. Yeah. So yes, I love it. I love Eshonai, and I'm really happy to see I hope she gets a win. She deserves it.
I hope she gets to kill Dalinar.
She doesn't even want to. She wants to make peace.
It's true. Yeah.
She wants all the killing to stop. And honestly, from the Parshendi perspective, it's yeah, these guys are getting fucked up, and it seems like they're doing it out of desire to survive, not desire for conquest, like most of the Alethi are. So honestly, I'm if you guys are Odium's thing, it's maybe Odium ain't so bad because you guys deserve better. I'm sure that will change if and when we actually meet Odium, if we ever do. But yeah, at the moment, it's I'm Team Parshendi. Fuck the Alethi. Also,
the sister is just not interested in trying for peace, apparently. But also, kind of coincidentally, ironically, I don't know. Dalinar has also been proposing, maybe we should talk to them and try to make peace. So, both, at least someone on both sides wants the same thing. Not everyone necessarily, although I also get the feeling that the Five might be inclined to make peace also if it was possible. I think her sister is the only one that we've seen being no, there's no way we can ever make peace.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think Venli has a point there. It's well, yeah, we kill the king. That's not exactly gonna let go quite so easily. But all the same, it's it's nice to know they're not just the crazy murderous warmongers that I don't think we've ever actually thought them to be at this point. But the Alethi don't really seem to care.
No, the Alethi don't know much about them, and at this point don't seem to care. You're right.
Yep.
Except for Dalinar. That's because Dalinar's cool.
Yep.
All right. Let's get into these chapters. Interlude 3. We're back to Rysn. I still don't know how you would say her name. And she still got her pot of grass from Shin. And they're in a boat. They're in a catamaran. And she has to carry her grass with her and take care of it. It's she likes to think of it as not stupid, but merely contemplative. Contemplative. Let me say that. She named the grass Tivink. Tivink. Which means sullen. And apparently the naming indicates that she is acknowledging that he was right and she was wrong. It's not weird, it's just different. She'd chosen not to be sullen at being proven so clearly wrong. She let the plant be sullen instead. So they're out on this enclosed sea, which if you look back at the map of Roshar, you can see where the Reshi Isles are. There's this very large sea north of the Pura Lake that it's not like entirely enclosed, but there's like a chain of islands all along before you get into the open ocean. So they're in this very large sea, and they're looking for a particular island. But meanwhile, her Babsk Vistum, this language with all the consonants just shoved up against each other, he has gotten sick, and she's concerned. And so there's a guy leading their flotilla, their trade flotilla, named Gu, G-U.
Fucking great name.
Old Goo.
And she says he looks like a Pure Laker with long limbs and leathery skin. But all the Pure Lakers she's met care deeply about those gods of theirs. This guy didn't care about anything.
Sure they do.
And she's like, oh, man, how long until we get there? He's like, soon. Define soon. Soon. Today, maybe. So punctuality, not big with these guys, which, if you'll remember, also the Pure Lakers weren't big on punctuality. He was like, it's the right day, right? Who cares what time it is?
Culturally, I've experienced that before. Not in the United States, but I was like, when I was traveling somewhere, I was like, wow, people do not care about being punctual at all.
Good for them, getting to be relaxed about what
Sure.
time.
They also would eat dinner at like 9:30 or 10 at night, which I was like, that's late for me.
Yeah, that's a lot of
Yeah.
South America and Europe. They do that. I've experienced that both places. So Gu tells them it's hard to find the right place. The patterns are off these days. The gods do not walk where they always should. And she...
You need traffic controllers for the giant island monsters. It's like, no, you're 300 feet off. Go that way. Those guys in the airport with the glowing red sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
Just waving them off.
I don't know that the gods would care. They're like, whatever.
Steer your god that way.
So she knows that they're looking for an island that moves, but she apparently is not aware of the mechanism behind this moving island. So when they finally catch sight of it, it's like, oh, land, there it is. And the guy's like, see, I told you soon. It was a very big island. She'd imagined she'd imagined it to be like a very large boat, not this towering rock formation. And it takes her a minute before she realizes, like, she starts getting explained to by the guy. He's like, he says that the Taina, these islands are good places to live, except when it's at war. And she's like, oh, so when the two islands get close? And he goes, well, not always. Sometimes close Taina is good, sometimes bad. And she's like, okay, well, what terms that? The Taina does. And she's like, the island decides. Okay. And that's when she realizes what she's seeing as the island moves. It is a giant crab with an island on its back, essentially.
Crabs ahoy, if I've ever heard it.
Fucking A.
So I don't know what she thought. I'm not sure it actually tells us like how she thought these islands moved, if she thought they were just rocks floating around. But yeah, she wasn't expecting the largest crab ever. She's like, even mythological monsters like the Chasm Fiend would be like pebbles compared to this. And it turns out that the rest of them know because they've been here before. It's like, why didn't anyone tell me? And she's like, it's better to see your face. This is great. So apparently these are warm waters. There's lots of people jumping in, swimming around. And then she notes that the people jumping in and swimming are not wearing any clothing. It's like, she was no Alethi prude, but Kelek, shouldn't they wear something? We see shame spren, which look like white and red flower petals drifting by. It's kind of a cool image. It's kind of it feels like kind of anime to me.
Yeah, maybe so.
You get embarrassed and all of a sudden like these flower petals appear flying around you. So she's got to go and negotiate because her Babsk is too sick. And she's like, well, why don't I ask them to come down here to you? And he's like, no. These people aren't like the Shin. Weakness will ruin the deal. You have to be bold with the Reshi. It's like, she's like, but what? These people are super relaxed. Like they're lounging around naked, jumping in to swim and laughing and playing. And he's like, no, you don't understand. Life can be simple here, but there's two sides to it.
Which, knowing what we know now, it just like I'm just like, really, dude? You couldn't have just spelled it out for her? Like, why is this such an involved test?
Yes, as we find out, as Joe mentioned at the end of the chapter, we find out this was all a test. He's pretending to be sick to give her a chance to go and negotiate this deal. Although they really hit her hard when she gets into the negotiation for it to have been a test. Like, it doesn't seem like there was a way for her to win. So he says, no, you have to go and make the trade. To them, a trade is like a fight. It's about posturing, and he even describes, like, I was once on one of the islands during a war, and you start out with people going out in boats to exchange insults before you actually get into fighting. But as he gets into the details, he also tells her, like, look, the terms of this deal are already set. There's not a negotiation here. It's not about what you can get. It's about whether or not they think you're worthy of getting it. That's what you have to convince them of. And we're told as they start climbing that the shell has been cut into in places, and the guy says, well, shells can't feel their shells. This monster probably can't either. So I forget if that had come up before. We talked about it, I think, but I guess it shouldn't be a surprise. If trolls are supposed to be kind of like hermit crabs, then obviously the hermit crab's not going to fill a shell.
I think we discussed that.
Yeah, it makes sense given what we know of this world.
And as they continue climbing up, they see more people in various states of undress leaping from higher and higher on the shell into the water. And someone says, they do it to shock you. They always jump from greater heights when there's a foreigner here. And she's like, yeah, that makes sense. Wait, who's that? And she turns around, and there is a guy tied by his feet to a point up high on the shell, hanging upside down. His blue skin, or almost blue skin, is covered with hundreds and hundreds of small, intricate tattoos.
Is this Axis the Collector?
I'm pretty sure this is Axis the Collector.
This poor guy.
Just has no luck.
He has such terrible luck everywhere he goes.
Yeah. I honestly thought to myself, is that guy? But then I was like, but I don't know. This just seems like it just doesn't seem right. Like, I feel bad for him.
It's like every book we just see more and more misfortune heaped upon this guy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's like
obviously
book 3, there'll be some interlude of like someone going through Shadesmar and they see this dude drowning in the bee. And it's like, oh, better help that guy. It's like, how did he even get here? I don't know.
Yeah, it's yeah, no, we haven't seen this guy in good shape yet. Although, you know, he's off studying Spren, so things are gonna happen, I guess. One of the guards is like, it's an Amian, keep your distance. And Rysn is nervous about this guy, but also kind of concerned. It says she stepped back, though she couldn't see his Voidbringer shadow. Which, if you'll remember in his previous interlude, he did mention that his shadow points the wrong way. Which coincidentally happens to Yasna in the prologue to this book.
Bum, bum, bum.
What, if any, relation there is? Who knows?
I'm going to assume touched by Spren in some way.
And
God knows, Axis has been touched by a lot of Spren.
Bad touch Spren. He found those early on. She's like, are you okay? He's like, huh? Oh, between blackouts, yeah, quite well. I think I'm growing numb to the pain of my ankles, which is just delightful.
Between blackouts, yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about me.
And she thinks that Amians are very bad luck. She's not even that superstitious, but geez, this is an Amian. That's, you know.
This is something like I'm a bit blown away, but it's like, was that always a thing? I don't remember that.
We haven't heard much about Amians, so this is an excellent question. The guard's like, what fell curses did you bring on this people, beast? And he says, improper puns and a stench from something I ate that did not sit well with me. And they says, don't ask about the soul of their god. They don't like to speak of that, it turns out. Must be spectacular to let the beasts grow this large, beyond even the spren that inhabit the bodies of ordinary great shells.
Oh, boy.
So there's all sorts of detail in that paragraph. First of all, apparently he's tied up because he asked about the soul of their god. But we know that that Axis the Collector is studying various kinds of spren, And he says that the soul of their god must be spectacular beyond even the spren who inhabit the bodies of ordinary great shells. So ordinary great shells, according to him, have spren that live inside them. And this one, being super huge, must have an even more amazing one. So I'm not sure what that tells us exactly, but that's
something. That's information, all right?
In some way. Yeah.
Did our friend at the end of the chapter, is that what she got, a spren thing from him? Who knows?
And the guard's like, don't feel bad for him. He could get out if he wanted. And another guard goes, yeah, they can take off their limbs. Take off their skin, too. No real body to them, just something evil taking human form. So, all right. That sounds kind of like superstition to me, but he can do some weird shit. He can change the tattoos on his body at will. We saw that.
Unless you had something offensive on your body, why would you need to do that?
Well, he took notes on his skin, as I recall.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because I was like, oh, it's like that guy in Memento.
Yeah.
But, not as permanent.
It's like he just moves the tattoos into a place where he can't reach.
Yeah, he said he got so drunk he hoped that he didn't put it in a place like that one time when he needed like 2 mirrors and a confused bathing attendant to help him read the notes he'd taken.
That's right.
So
although
it happens.
That said, if he can move the tattoos, he doesn't need the mirrors or anything. He's just like, oh, I can't read that. Shift up.
Yeah, maybe he can't just like move them. Maybe he can just make them disappear. I don't know. That's a fair point. And so she just leaves him behind. That's the last we see of him. So it unnerves her, but they keep going. And so they climb all the way up to the giant beast's head. In fact, presumably kind of past the head, given what we see later. But she gets up there, and here's the king, who, as it turns out, is a woman. But it's the king. Like that's just the title, regardless of the gender of the person who has the position. And she notes, it's like, this king definitely has breasts. I don't know what's going on here. And she says, my master's indisposed. I'm authorized to speak for him and accomplish the trade. And the guy's like, okay, well, then the trade's off. He should have known better. And this whole time, they're up on top of like this ledge, essentially, at the top of this giant creature, and she's terrified of falling. She's like, oh, this is part of like their negotiating tactic, is to make you nervous up here. And they're using vines as rope and lowering bundles of fruit over the side so the giant monster can eat it.
You're going to need a lot of fruit.
Right? Yeah. He says, it's just a treat. It's an offering. And it's like, why are you here? The trade is off. Go away. And so she's like, no, come on. She starts trying everything that she can come up with to get the trade back on, essentially. It's like, your island approves of such waste, inviting traders here and then just sending them off. Relu Na approves of boldness and, more importantly, respect. If we don't respect the one who we trade with, then we should not do it. And she brings up, like, hey, you guys are way out here. You could use some medicine and stuff. And he's like, we're not stupid, okay? Why do I have to explain this to every single person? Just because we live simply doesn't make us idiots. Like, oh, medicine. Man, we never thought of that. I was just going to sit here and die. And she's like, oh, crap. Okay. And she realizes that he trained in Thailana as well, where she's from. And as we find out at the end of the chapter, her Bapsk, the person she's training with, is the same one that this guy trained with. So he says, my parents sent me to train as a child so that you have to know a predator's tricks before you can catch him.
Yeah. So I wonder how much of this, because I guess these guard guys were like in on it. So like I wonder how much of this the talk about their culture was real.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
I don't know. Like if it was all a test, like what is it? What parts of it were real? What parts of it were not?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I just kind of assumed that they were treating her like they would some new person who showed up, and that it was all legitimate except for the fact that it's like, oh, well, we were going to trade with you after all. We were just giving you a chance to act like it was a fresh negotiation.
Right.
But maybe you're right. Maybe they're putting on more than meets the eye.
Are you trying to say they're robots in disguise? Because that would
exactly,
definitely be, that would blow my mind.
The robots live on a giant crab. It's a whole thing. And they're this I like. It's like, so your parents sent you, being the king and queen. He's like, the king and the king's consort. And she's like, you could just call her a queen. It would be fine. Which I feel like is once again her being really condescending to their culture, where it's just like, this is the way we do things. And she's like, well, but you could just do them different. Okay. And I like the guy's like, oh, your master is sickly. We would be taking advantage of him if we did this trade. This trade that we've already agreed to the like stipulations of. That seems, if anything was fake, I feel like that statement must be. And eventually the king says something, and the guy's surprised. The king says that you've impressed her. The king will hear your argument for a trade. And so she tries. She's like, how can I impress you the way that like my Babsk did? So what made you agree to trade with him? It's like the king says that he slew a beast with one of their hunting parties, a Karakot. And he's like, I doubt you'll be slaying any beasts, child. And she tries to argue, like, if you trust his judgment and he trusts me, then why can't you trust me? And they're not buying it. And eventually they're just like, look, you've impressed us. You can come back some other time. You guys can come back when he's well. That's the best that you're going to get. And when she realizes that she's gotten as far as she can, she goes, you know what? I think I need to speak to someone with more authority. And the guy's like, you've talked to the king. There is nobody with more authority. And she's like, I beg your pardon, but I think there is. And she grabs one of the ropes and starts sliding down it to talk to the Great Shell's head, the god's head. And the guy at the top is like, what in Kelleck's name are you doing, idiot woman? And she's like, it's kind of funny. He learned curses when he was studying with us.
Isn't that what most people do when they learn another language? First thing they do is learn the swear words.
Yeah, why would you not?
If you're not learning the swear words, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
She's like, Reluna approves of boldness. He's like, there's a difference between boldness and stupidity. And then he's like, pull her back up. And so she gets down and she's just like, starts yelling things at the crab's eye. Your people need what I've brought. I can't I have to trade with them.
What will you do in order for me to trade with you? And the monster looks at her and goes, I need about 350. It was then I noticed that the island was actually 800 feet tall and was a crustacean from the Paleolithic era. And so I said, get out of here, you goddamn Loch Ness monster! Stop interrupting my trade deal.
Dude, I would give him all the money if the crab asked for 350. And so they're yelling at her to come back up. And she's like, what about the negotiation? What do you think, giant crab monster? And that's when the crab monster grabs the rope with its mandibles and pulls on it. And the rope breaks and she falls a very long way and crashes into water as hard as stone. And then she starts waking.
Way to break all your limbs.
Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah.
She starts waking up and she hears the guy she was negotiating with go, she's an idiot. And her boss is there and he's like, well, then she fits me very well.
Yeah.
And she's drifting in and out, but she realizes that she can't move her legs. And they see she's woken up and Vistum's like, calm down, it's okay. And she goes, I lived. And he's barely. The spren cushioned your fall. And this is when she realizes you were his Babsk. This was all a test. I thought this would be a perfect chance for you, a practice with real stakes, and then you went and fell off the island's head. She wants to know if she will walk again, and he's like, I don't know. But you will trade again. Passions, daring to go above the king's authority, being saved by the island's soul itself. The other islands will be clamoring to trade with us. So he told her the spren cushioned your fall, and that the island's soul itself saved her. So whatever spren Axes was looking for, it saved her life somehow. And then she feels something on her arm, and there's a creature, it says, looked like a kremling, but with wings. And she says, what is that? And he says, this is what, yeah, well,
it's a
little flying crab monster. Yeah.
It's a critter. I don't want it on me. Get it off.
We came here to trade for this thing, a treasure that very few even know still exists. They're supposed to have died with Amia, you see. I came here with all these goods to trade because Talik told me they had the corpse of one to trade. Kings pay a fortune for them. Fun note, back in, let's see.
Oh! Before you say it, let me take a guess. This is the thing Kaladin saw in a jar on Ellikar's desk.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
so
nailed it.
Kaladin is
nice.
Kaladin is there, and it says Syl is walking around on the desk, and she stops on a paperweight on the writing desk beside the king's chair, poking at a block of crystal with a strange crab thing trapped inside. Were those wings? So here you go. Kings will pay a fortune for the corpses of one of these things. And that's what Ellikar does with the one that he's apparently paid a fortune for. It's a paperweight. And he says, I've never seen one alive before. I was given the corpse I wanted in trade. This one has been given to you. And she says, by the Reshi? He's like, no, the Reshi could not command one of the Larkin. This was given to you by the island itself. Now, drink your medicine, go to sleep. You shattered both of your legs. We're going to stay here for as long as it takes you to recover. And that's the end of that one. So she's got a new pet flying crab monster, a gift from the island, and a couple of shattered legs. So that's fun. And we go to the Last Legion, where Thude is asking Eshonai, it's like, what kind of spren is it? And Eshonai says, my sister says it's a storm spren. And you got Thude and Bila, who are apparently they're a war pair from Eshonai's personal division. And all Bila cares about is, will this thing help me kill humans? And Eshonai goes, I mean, it could change the world. And she's like, yeah, but will it help me kill humans? And Eshonai's like, yes, if Stormform is really one of the ancient powers, it will help you kill humans, lots of them. And she's like, all right then. Eshonai is worried about this form, saying it's from the gods. And Bila says, I mean, who cares? If the gods will help us kill humans, then I'm up for it. And Eshonai says, don't say that. Never say something like that. And so, as you recall, Venli discovered Stormform, or the way to get Stormform, and they're going to talk to the Five about it. Eshonai apparently not real on board with this idea. They have a gemstone with a spren trapped inside, and she feels bad about trapping them. The right way to transform is to go into the storm with the proper attitude, singing the proper song to attract the proper spren. Then you bond with it, and you get your new body. So that answers the question about how do they transform. Joe was like, last time, Joe's like, so can they just like transform whenever they feel like it? No, apparently you go out into a high storm, and you have to bond with the right kind of spren to get the form that you want.
Yes, says, that old chestnut.
It says sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you go trying to get one thing and you attract the wrong kind of spren and you end up being something else entirely. But
that just makes me think, like, is there a form for every kind of spren there are out there?
Yeah, that could be a bunch, right?
Yeah. I've attracted flame spren, and the Alethi look up and there's just this flaming Parshendi running through their camp, like, ah!
Get the human torch. Yeah, it could work.
Or rot spren. You just have like the walking corpse.
Ooh, zombie Parshendi.
Yeah,
they bite you and you turn into one. That's badass.
Yeah.
But so apparently they discovered from the humans the ability to trap spren in a gemstone, and so it takes out that element of chance where you might get the wrong one if you go into the storm with the kind of spren that you want. And then she's gonna go talk to her mom. Her mom, who appears to be going through the Parshendi equivalent of like
dementia.
What do you call
Alzheimer's?
Dementia. Thank you.
Yeah. Sad.
It is very sad.
Oh, horrific.
We find out along the way that her people come from the Last Legion, thought of themselves as the Last Legion. They split off from the rest of the society in order to get away from the fighting, basically. And they had to take on like this dull form to avoid it. It says that she once tried dull form. She wanted to know what their spies would suffer. And apparently it's very hard to think while in dull form. But she finds some people who have voluntarily taken on this dull form. And she's like, why? Did you go out in the storm and it messed up? You got the wrong spren or whatever? And no, they did it on purpose so that when the humans come, they won't kill us. And that's just horrifying also. But it says that she can't command them to change their form. That's part of their society's beliefs, is like you can't force anyone to take a form. They all have freedom to choose whatever form they want. And then she finds her mom, who's working in her little garden, and her mom thinks that she's her sister at first. She also thinks that this house that Eshonai apparently made for her, she's like, oh no, the people who live here are coming back. I heard them. I talked to them yesterday. And she says that we moved to Narak and chose a war of attrition, but 6 years of steady losses later, the people are giving up. But the alternative, dabbling in things we shouldn't, things that might bring the eyes of the unmade upon us. But her mom is not really in an advice-giving place right now. So instead, she's like, sing me the song about when we left the dark home. And this is where we get that stuff about the Last Legion, warriors sent to fight on the furthest plains. The day of the storm, the Last Legion fled. Our only choice to seek dullness of mind, a crippling that brought freedom. And so they have the songs that they sing to remember what happened until the forms are again discovered.
Yeah. I wish that, obviously we always want more detail. I wish they'd gone into more detail here because I'd love to know the history. Be pretty,
right?
Be cool.
Agreed. And she says Eshonai wants more information too. She's like, the songs leave out so much. The last legion hadn't known how to transform into anything other than dull form and mate form, not without the help of the gods. How had they even known other forms were possible? And then her mom's like, hey, I found some old stuff of yours. And it's her maps from the early days where she used to go off and explore the wilderness and make maps. That's when she met the humans and started this whole thing, basically. The listeners had made a decision centuries ago to set themselves back to primitive levels to escape their gods, essentially. And so when Gavilar Kholin had been like, hey, we're going to do this thing, they'd had to kill him to affirm the decision of their ancestors. They'd hoped the Alethi would get bored by a long war and leave, but that was before the Gem Hearts. And so she goes to see the five. I mean, she's a member of the five. They know of 5 different forms at the moment, and so each one of them wears one of the 5 forms so that every perspective gets heard, essentially.
Kind of cool.
And Eshonai, they're going to talk about this storm form thing. And Eshonai says, I don't think we should do it. And the sister's like, don't be stupid. We have to do it. And the rest of the 5 are kind of several minds on it. And the mate form guy points out that Eshonai, we saw in your report, there's an Alethi using surge binding. The Spren have again betrayed us. And somebody else is like, well, if surge binding is back, maybe that indicates the gods are coming back anyway. If so, we need to prepare to deal with them. And forms of power might help. And again, Eshonai says, well, it might not be surge binding. It might be one of the honor blades. We left one in Alethkar that night. Okay, what does that tell us?
I guess that's an honor blade. So maybe
Shard blades, honor blades?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't surge bind. Maybe he doesn't need a Spren to do whatever he's doing. Who knows?
I mean, yeah, it sounds like there's 2 possibilities. You can have powers with surge binding, or you can have one of the honor blades. So,
Oh, like his blade gives him the surge powers. Interesting.
Well, I'm assuming that it's called an honor blade. I assume it must be a blade. We could be wrong.
I thought the honor blades weren't referring to the blades. I thought they were referring to a group of people.
Oh, maybe that's the name of a group. Okay, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you're the guy who knows, so unless you just tried to feed me a red herring, I don't know.
Eat the herring. Oh, now you got me thinking about Clue, and Martin Mull just died, and that's sad.
Oh yeah, that is sad. Gene Parmesan, the principal from Sabrina.
Yeah, that's where I was thinking of him, is from Sabrina, or that one episode of Psych that was the spoof of Clue.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Moment of sadness. They wanted, some of them want to test this. Venli wants to go out and test this. She's like, let me do it. Let me do the storm form thing. And it actually seems like the 4 of the other 5 are in favor of doing this. And the one guy's like, we need to be unanimous. I will accept nothing less. Eshonai, are you going to keep objecting? And Eshonai says, okay, fine. I will agree to the test, but I want to be the first one who tries it. And that's when Venli's like, what? No, it's my right. And Eshonai says, no, you're too valuable. You're the one who knows about the forms. Your research has to keep going. I'm just a soldier. I can be spared if something goes wrong. And then the others of the 5 are like, actually, no, this is a good idea. Not only is she right about what she says, but one of them points out, it's like, Venli, you're a little too enthusiastic about this. If Eshonai goes out there and something starts to go wrong, she can stop the experiment. And so they decide that they will do that. And Venli's not happy about it. She's like, you're trying to take the glory of whatever. And Eshonai's like, come on, dude. That's not what this is about. Meanwhile, Eshonai ends the chapter thinking how maybe there's another way. If she can get the Alethi to listen, if she can talk to get Dalinar Kholin and sue for peace, then maybe, which, look, if that's what she wanted, then maybe she shouldn't have started that fight with him the last time she ran into him. She could have been like, hey, I'm here to talk. Your whole army's about to be slaughtered. Maybe we can. She could have had this discussion from a position of power where he would have reason to listen to her, but instead she seems to have tried to kill him.
Yeah. Well,
of course, it wasn't until like his helmet broke that she was like, "Oh, it's you. I've been looking for you." So maybe that's why.
Also, does Warform like take some of her reasoning power away when she's on the battlefield? I mean, I don't know.
Could.
Yeah, maybe.
That's a fair point. Then we start part 2, Winds Approach. And we start with Shallan. But our epigraph this time is a piece of a listener song. The listener song of listing, 15th stanza. War form is worn for battle and reign, claimed by the gods, given to kill, unknown, unseen, but vital to gain. It comes to those with the will. So if this is indicative of the rest of the part, we may find out a lot about listener forms from their songs. So Shallan is sitting next to Bluth, however you want to say his name, as the wagons head off towards the Shattered Plains. And she starts asking questions, and Bluth is just like, whatever. Like, he just grunts at her. And she says,
no one will determine my accent doesn't belong here if I just grunt at people.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. I like this. Maybe Naz. It is common, Bluth, to engage one's traveling companions in mutually diverting dialogue. He goes, I'd do that if I knew what the damnation half those words meant. And she's like, well, then we're even. You use lots of words. I don't know what they mean. Admittedly, I think most of those are curses. And he's like, you think I'm dumb as that stick, don't you? And her first thought is, stop insulting my stick. But she doesn't say that.
He is a stick.
I am a stick. And she goes off on this tangent about how, like, look, everyone is dumb in their own ways. Like, I couldn't even start a fire when I was off by myself. But and you don't know, like, big words or whatever. So we each have our own, like, areas of stupidity that complement each other. And the joke does not land. And she's like, fine, whatever.
He's just like, shh, shut the fuck up.
Oh, the other guard is named Tag. Tag is driving the other cart. So Tag and Bluth, they are the same guards that we met once upon a time when Kaladin was in the cage. And so Shallan, as somebody pointed out, like the cages we know are designed, you can put walls on them to keep you out of a high storm, essentially. We saw that with Kaladin. And so she says, like, look, I'm not used to riding on wagons like this. Tell you what, why don't you put the wooden sides up on the cages, and I'm going to ride in one of those. It'll be my traveling wagon. And he's like, wait, you want me to put you in a cage? And she's like, yeah, why not? Certainly I'm safe in your custody, tradesman Tolakov. And so he's like, okay. And they do what she's asking, and he starts to walk away, and she's like, hey, the key? Oh, yeah, right. And so now she has a place in private where she can look through what survived of Yasna's stuff and also talk to Pattern. And let's see, Shallan is talking about how, they have to finish Yasna's work. It was super important. And then she's like, our danger isn't theoretical, Pattern. It's real and it's terrible. And he goes, yes. She's like, wait, you know something about this? And he says, my return because of this. And she says, you came to me because of the Voidbringers. And he says, yes. Patterns, we, us, worry. One was sent, me. Why to me? Because of lies. It's hard for him to explain and for her to understand. I know little of humans. They break, their minds break. You did not break, only cracked. She is a little bit cracked. Let's be fair. And so she's like, I'm calling you Pattern, but do you have a name? And he's like, name is numbers, many numbers, hard to say. Pattern is fine. So his name is a series of numbers. It's hard to pronounce. Or maybe it's just would take a really long time to say. I don't know. And she says, who are the people who did this? And he says, I don't know. And she's like, but you're certain that Yasna was right. The Voidbringers are going to return. And Pattern says, yes, Spren of him. They come.
Ooh, evil Spren. White Spren?
And she's like, look, if these guys were from that same group as Cabsol, and apparently my dad, why would they want to kill the person who is closest to understanding this stuff? And then she's like, wait, no, I know the answer. They want to control the knowledge so they can profit from it. Profit from the apocalypse itself. A very human answer. We're going to see that doesn't happen. And that's the end of the chapter. Although after the end of the chapter, there's a very nice image. It says, excerpt from a longer scroll. The bottom half was eaten by an axe hound as I fled the place where I'd stolen this. And I believe that is Naz's handwriting, even though this one's not signed. But it's kind of a fun image of two guys dueling with shard blades and shard plate until one guy gets stabbed.
Oh boy, that's kind of my only reason that I I like your theory. I want it to be true, Deck, but that's kind of like the reason that I don't think it is true, because Naz has talked earlier in the book about having to like be close, like stay close to the Shattered Plains and like watch stuff.
Fair point.
So he couldn't have been traveling around with that guy, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We do know there was the bit where he talked about having to watch the bridgemen to get a picture of their tattoos drawn or whatever. But that could happen if and when or after if Shallan does make it.
I guess
to
that's
Shattered
true.
Plains.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But those are our chapters for this time out. Mostly interludes. Really, the Rysn interlude chapter is the longest one, and the Shallan chapter was the shortest one. So let's move into predicaments, and I will give you guys the chapter names. We're going to read 3 more chapters next time, 14, 15, 16. And this image, by the way, is in the table of contents as the Scroll of Stances. So it's like different stances, I suppose, with the blades. I think we've heard them refer to some of the stances when they're doing fighting. But chapter 14 is called Iron Stance. Chapter 15 is called A Hand with the Tower. And chapter 16 is called Sword Master. So there you go. Predicaments. What do you guys think? Where are we going? What's going to happen?
Oof, man. Just with those chapter titles in mind, I think this first one's going to be Adolin, and we know that his part in this plan that his dad made was for him to duel guys. So I guess it's going to be about him, like dueling dudes, whipping out his Yu-Gi-Oh cards and being like, it's time to duel,
He challenges Sadeas, and whoever loses is going to get sent to the Shadow Realm.
Exactly. Which, sidebar, there's a guy who's going to be an Olympic runner for the U.S. coming up, and he like whips out Yu-Gi-Oh cards after runs all the time, and is like, look at my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So kind of interesting. His name's Noah Lyles. Check him out. But yeah, Team USA, I guess. Sorry, Dak. Anyway.
rooting against your team.
Yeah.
Fuck do I know about Olympics?
I guess that's true. I mean, the Australians are pretty good in swimming. They always have been.
Yeah.
That I know of.
Yeah, I used to do swimming when I was a teenager, so I had to be focused on that sort of stuff. And it's a digression, but I have thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know if they're bringing surfing back this time or not. I don't recall. But anyway, yeah, so I think that's going to be about Adolin. Then Hand of the Tower. I mean, I want that to be about Eshonai again, because we keep talking about, but I don't know. She might stay in the interlude. So I'm just gonna guess that is maybe Dalinar, and we're talking more about like stuff that happened back at the tower. Or if his name wasn't at the front of this section, which I don't remember.
I don't think
Dalinar was not.
Oh, okay. So what is it? It was Shallan,
Adolin, Kaladin, and Sadeas.
That's okay, right. So maybe it's Kaladin or maybe it's Sadeas, because Sadeas definitely did some stuff at the tower that he's probably rethinking. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't care. Let me think. What else? What was the third one again? The third chapter title?
Sword Master.
Sword Master. Well, actually, Sadeas is the master of that sword, so maybe that's the Sadeas chapter. But going back, well, I'll rewind that then. So Kaladin, if he's Hand of the Tower, I don't know. Maybe he's just going to learn more about his powers. Keep going on that track. That is something he needs to be doing, in my opinion. So I would appreciate it if he kept doing that. And then, yeah, Sadeas, maybe he's going to be like, why don't they respect me? I'm the sword master now. He's going to keep stabbing tables as his want to do. Mm-hmm. Just stab table. Yeah, table bane. That's right. The bane of all tables. But over the long haul, I just want more Parshendi stuff. So like bring Eshonai into the main story, bring this storm form. If Eshonai like finds his storm form and she's like, oh yeah, I could use this, then that'd be that's gonna throw a whole new like spin on stuff. So give me more of the. Honestly, like I could have some of the interludes in the last book. I could have taken or leave them. Like I liked them, but at the same time I wasn't like super into them. But this book, I'm like, give me more of the interlude stuff. I want more of that. So hopefully we'll get more of that down the line. Maybe they're more consistently about the same group of people or the same groups of people. Because we've already had 2 interlude people collide, and then 1 interlude person collide with regular story a little bit. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's true. We have had a couple interlude people run into each other, and I mean, there was Shallan's. I guess we still haven't seen much with Shallan's brothers, but there was the one interlude with Shallan's brothers. So
Oh yeah, I forgot about that until you.
That's
just
kind of attached to the regular story.
Yeah.
But I agree. We're finally learning stuff about the Parshendi, which we've wanted for more than a whole book now. So
right.
It's just like we got 2 of the 4 interludes were about them, and it's still like I want more. Give me more.
Yep.
So with you on that one.
So what was it? Iron Stance, Swordmaster, and what was the other one?
A Hand with the Tower.
And with the tower. Yeah, I feel like that's got to involve a bridge run to the tower, so that can only be Sadeas. Yeah, I agree. Iron Stance, I think, is that'd be Adolin and his stuff. Yeah, Swordmaster could be anyone. That could be Sadeas. That could be Adolin. I don't think it'd be Kaladin because he's a spearman, not a swordsman. Even before he got sold into slavery, he was all about the spear, wasn't he? Because that's the Dark Eye's weapon.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that'll probably be Adolin or Sadeas again. Yeah. So we'll see how each of those pans out. Agreed. I really want the interlude characters back because we're obviously not getting him back, but yeah, like the interlude characters are just they're all really interesting, and I want to see more. Long-term predictions. So I've thought a lot about the Parshendi listeners and what they're up to. They're talking about Stormspren and Stormform, and the countdown on the wall that Dalinar put up there. So, like, I think that's going to be a countdown to when the listeners crack whatever it is they're cracking. But at one point during the week, I looked at the back of the book and I read that the blurb. I don't know, we got the shorter version of the blurb that that is on the American editions. But it talks about the Knights Radiant. It mentions the 4 Windrunner Lightweaver Bondsmith Explorer, and talks about the assassin has arrived. Those are all things that we know about. But there's one reference there which, like, to something else which we haven't really talked about, like the Everstorm looms.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, okay, that sounds like a much more intense version of the High Storm. Maybe that has something to do with this storm form that the listeners are putting together.
Oh.
Maybe, I mean, how fucking cool would it be if, like, the listeners decided, like, they were able to, take control of a high storm, and instead of just being a random thing that sweeps across the continent, it's actually guided and forced by the listeners. That would help them fight back. So maybe that's what this Everstorm is. Maybe, like, they can control it with Stormform or something if they're all working together and in sync.
I mean, it kind of fits with what they've said, that they can control, maybe even summon a high storm. So if I could see how that could be. Yeah. We have heard the name Everstorm mentioned a couple times in the book so far.
We have?
Yeah. So, for instance, when Dalinar is meeting with the king and other people about what they're doing, let's see. He says, "This isn't Alethkar. Alethkar was justice. We're children wearing our father's cloak." And the king's like, I mean, this is something. This is more than we've had in centuries. You're going to destroy everything. And Dalinar says, no, this isn't what your dad worked for. This game on the Shattered Plains, this nauseating political farce, this isn't what Gavilar envisioned. The Everstorm comes. And Elhokar says, what? And Dalinar's like, no, don't worry about it.
Oh, righto.
And the other reference that we've had to it was similar, where Dalinar just thinks the Everstorm comes. 62 days, not enough time. So.
Okay, so yeah, like this is something. Like, all right, this is all tying together. There's got to be something to do with the Parshendi summon the storm. That's when the deadline runs up, and Dalinar doesn't even realize what it means. He's just like, the Everstorm comes. What is that? I have no idea.
Interesting. So maybe that's what we're counting down to. I like this idea.
Yeah.
So the somehow in the next 60 days or however long we actually have left at this point, who knows, they'll get one or a bunch of them. Who knows if how many you need to summon or control a high storm, and that'll be what we're counting to. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like in the background, the listeners are all just controlling. All right, so Eshonai's first test works a treat. So, and then she starts training other people to do it. Venli has got to, force her way into that, and then more. It spreads. More and more people learn how to do it, and then it's like, all right, here we fucking go.
That could be scary. I mean, summoning or controlling, either way, a high storm to do what you want it to do, that could be terrifying.
Yep.
for the Alethi. I would also point out that the name of that chapter, A Hand with the Tower, I think it must be a reference to something that we read about last time, where, if you'll recall, in the chapter where the new Light Eyes is showing up, and Lirin comes to get his family. He's like, "Hey, the new Light Eyes is coming. Let's go and check him out." And he says, we need to find out if we've thrown. It says, will we throw the queen or the tower? And then it's not till the end of the chapter that Kaladin, or in his head, we get explained that the tower is 3 pairs in a game of breakneck, while the queen was 2 trios. The first is an outright loss. The other is an outright win.
Huh.
So that's, to me, what it sounds like that chapter is about. It's a hand that has 3 pairs, which is apparently a loss.
Right, so it's all card games.
Yeah, that's what the name sounds like to me. As opposed to being actually about the tower on the Shattered Plains. But who knows? We're not there yet. Honestly, I don't remember what the chapter is about. I haven't read that one again yet. So I couldn't tell you offhand what many of these chapters are about, although just from the names, since I haven't read many of them in a while. Swordmaster, I think I remember what that one's about. But the other 2, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay.
But yeah, so maybe they'll be playing some sort of card game in chapter 50.
Yeah. All
right. Well, fair enough. Some interesting predictions. I think Dax is my favorite so far about this Everstorm thing, putting together some pieces
that's
that
a good
we've
one.
seen. Let's move on to, we have a couple new things to talk about, or a couple new people to call out. We've got 1 new review and 1 new patron. Let's do the review first, so you'll get your lists set.
Okay.
The new review is on Apple Podcasts. It is from Justin_1130, and the title is New to the Cosmere. And then it says, having wanting to get into the Cosmere for some time, I wasn't sure if they were trying to make a reference to Spook or not. This podcast is the perfect mix of open discussion, humor, speculation, and spoiler-free conversation about my newfound fantasy fiction world. I joined after reading The Final Empire and am now reading Secret History while staying aligned with the podcast. Thanks to all of you.
That's a great review. You could be a slider, give us something a little different.
You are a tiny hamburger. Good job.
Yep. Hamburger.
And then thank you for your review. We appreciate those. Then if anyone wants to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, I get notifications about one on Apple, but if you leave us a Spotify one or something else, send us an email with a picture of it, and Joe will give you a misting power. You'll get jumped into the misting crew. We have 1 new patron at the misting level, and it is Seth.
Oh. Seth. You store weight, my friend, just like our good friend, what was his name?
Wax.
Yeah, Waxilium Ladrian.
Nice. So, if you would like a ferrochemical power, you can join our Patreon. It's The Sanderlanche, or patreon.com/TheSanderlanche, or go to Patreon and search for The Sanderlanche Podcast. Right now, as we record this, the 3 episodes that I recorded of Long Chills and Case Dough are up, where I'm reading them for the first time and reacting to them. That was a weird one. And since then, I have started reading Dragonsteel Prime, and I'm recording my reactions to that one. I've got the first 2 recorded so far. None of them has been uploaded yet, although by the time people are listening to this, assuming I have time to edit them, both of the first 2 should be up. So the first prologue and then the chapters 1 through 5 should all be up by then. Dragonsteel Prime being the book that he released or is releasing along with the Words of Radiance Kickstarter. It was one of his very early books. It's also Brandon's master's thesis. So before now, the only way to read that book was to go to the BYU library and check it out. And he notes in the introduction to the book that it is the most checked out book in the history of master's thesi, whatever, at the university. They had to rebind the thing 3 times because it was so worn out from getting checked out so much. So
nice. How did you get your copy?
Well, I pledged for it in the Kickstarter, and they had digital copies for the people who bought it in the Kickstarter.
Well, I pledged for it too, but I didn't.
So
get
you probably got an email about digital copies being available.
Nope, I sure did not.
Well, hold on. Now I'm going to go
to
the Kickstarter.
I had some issues. I had some issues with that. Like, it kept kicking my payment back, but then like I would reaffirm it or whatever.
Interesting.
So hopefully I'm going to get my books. 'Cause I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
they got my
right.
money.
I mean, you can go out to BackerKit and make sure that it's all in there.
Yeah, let me go to BackerKit.
Let's see.
Dive into something you love.
Is there a place for like updates on this? Because now I want to see if it was an update where they did that or if it was an email. I don't remember. Let's see.
Never. Okay, so I'm logged in. So where do I go to find the stuff that I got? Your pledges and surveys. Here we go. Yeah, it says that I have pledged. I wonder if because I pledged for an individual book and then I made the other book an add-on, if I don't get a digital copy.
Oh, interesting. Let me see. Let me look at the add-ons. And if you added on the hardcover, it says it includes Dragonsteel Prime hardcover, ebook, and audiobook.
Yeah, I didn't get any of that.
Okay, hold on. Now I want to go to my email and see if and when. Because it's been a while since I downloaded it, honestly. I'm not 100% sure how it came in because I downloaded it when it first came in, and then I had to wait until I had time to record it before I could actually,
Right.
download it. Let's see. Thank you for confirming your order. Here's your pledge level. I just learned about this campaign.
The last thing I got from them is that I had submitted my survey and been charged.
Interesting. Okay, hold on.
It's not a big deal. It's
here
not
we
like
go.
I can
Here we
read it
go.
anyway.
I got it. It was, you can get the audiobook or the ebook if you like. Here, I'll send you the link to.
I mean, it's not like I can read it, right? Like eventually we might read that.
That's true. I don't know that the free link will be available forever though, so you might want to download it if you want it. Same for
gotcha.
DAC, I guess. Like if you're interested, you can download the free one. And although this is in the BackerKit campaign, so I don't even know if this was just for backers. I guess we'll find out. Anyway, it was an update in the BackerKit. Okay, so good. That's but yes, if you want to hear me reacting as I read through this, the chapters are real long compared to some of the other books that I've read. So these are going to be longer episodes of Before the Sanderlanche, as I call what I do there. And there's a lot of chapters in this book. I've done 2 episodes, and that's 15% of the way through so far. So it seems like I'm covering some decent ground. But overall, there are 53 chapters and an epilogue and a prologue. So that's going to be several episodes at 3 chapters ago.
Right.
So that should last us a while for some Patreon content. So if you want to, if you've, I don't know that I'd recommend listening to me if you've never read these Dragonsteel Prime yet, but if you want to hear my reactions to it, you can join our Patreon and listen to that. Or other books that I've done the same thing with as they've come out, Bastille versus the Evil Librarians, Defiant, Lost Metal, all that good stuff. That's our Patreon. What else do I need to hit on? If you'd like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. We are on Instagram and X and Facebook and other places that I've already mentioned. So check those out. Remember, we're doing 3 chapters for next time, 14, 15, 16. If you're following along, those are the chapters to read. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wasn't to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Fasher. Crabs ahoy! Giant walking crab island ahoy.
Amnesia, you forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain, but you're growing stronger every day. Amnesia.